Tonight, 12 News obtained video showing a Phoenix woman and her boyfriend less than an hour before, according to police, he shot and killed her this week.
30 minutes. That's all the time Katherine Cervantez had left when this video was recorded. December 17th, 2025, Phoenix, Arizona. You can see her standing by that Nissan Altima, watching her boyfriend Victor Giron gesture wildly at another car in the street. She gets back in. 30 minutes later, she was dead, shot by the same man. And here's the thing that's going to make your stomach turn. They'd only been dating for 2 weeks, 14 days. Girl, let me tell you something. This case is going to shake you. When the clock strikes midnight, the truth comes out. I'm 12 a.m. crime, and every single day I bring you real cases of domestic violence that turn deadly. The stories the system tried to bury, the victims who deserve justice. If you're about that raw, unfiltered truth, hit subscribe. New case drops every day at midnight. Don't sleep on justice. This is 12 a.m. crime. Katherine Cervantez was 39 years old, a mother, a woman who people described as loving, someone who would be deeply missed by everyone who knew her. She was living her life in Phoenix, trying to navigate the world like the rest of us, trying to find connection, maybe trying to find love. Then she met Victor Giron, 21 years old, 18 years younger than Katherine. Now, age is just a number to some people, but in this case, that gap matters because of what came with it. Victor wasn't just young. He was troubled. He was violent. And he was armed. The relationship started sometime in late November, early December of 2025. By all accounts, it lasted about 2 to 3 weeks. Not months, not years, weeks. Think about that. Most people are still in the honeymoon phase at 2 weeks, still learning each other's favorite foods, still sending good morning texts, still on their best behavior. But Katherine and Victor? They were already deep in dysfunction. Katherine's mother would later tell investigators that her daughter mentioned the arguing. Constant arguing. The kind that makes you wonder why someone stays. But we all know relationships are complicated. People hold on hoping things will change, hoping that good person they met will come back. Katherine's mum also said something else that should have been a massive red flag. Katherine told her that Victor kept a gun in his vehicle, not for protection in the general sense. He just had it, kept it close. Katherine had a close friend, someone she trusted enough to bring Victor around. This friend would become the key witness to everything that happened, and honestly, this woman went through her own trauma that night. But we'll get to that. What matters right now is that this friend noticed things. She paid attention. When Katherine and Victor came around, the friend saw that Victor was carrying a gun, like visibly armed. And Katherine had already confided in her. She told her friend that she and Victor argued often. But it wasn't just arguing. Katherine said he had assaulted her. Let that sit for a second. 2 weeks in, and he'd already put his hands on her. 2 weeks in, and she was already telling people about violence. But she was still with him. Maybe she thought it would get better. Maybe she felt trapped already. Maybe she loved him despite the chaos. We don't know. What we do know is that the violence was escalating, and fast. December 16th, 2025. The day before Katherine would be killed, she and Victor went to stay at her friend's house. The same friend who'd noticed the gun, the same one Katherine had opened up to about the abuse. They spent the night there. But it wasn't a peaceful night. The next morning, December 17th, the friend witnessed something that should have ended everything right then and there. She saw Katherine and Victor in the backyard, and they were arguing, heated. going back and forth. The friend said the argument was about alcohol and drug usage. Now the sources don't specify who was using what, but it was enough to cause a major blowout between them. Then things took a turn. The friend heard someone make a comment about being stabbed. The sources don't make it clear who said it, whether it was Katherine or Victor, or what the full context was. But that word came up. Stabbed. In the middle of an argument that was already volatile. And then Victor said something that should have made everyone in that house call the police immediately. The friend heard him say, clear as day, that he was going to shoot Katherine. Not, I'm upset. Not, I'm leaving. He said he would shoot her. Make it make sense. You're in someone else's home, arguing with your girlfriend of 2 weeks, and you threatened to kill her. The friend had heard enough. She told both of them they needed to leave, get out, take this toxic situation somewhere else. And they did. Katherine and Victor left the house. This was around mid-morning on December 17th. 1 hour later, Victor Giron came back. But he came back alone. The friend said Victor entered her home without permission, just walked in. And when she saw him, she knew something was wrong. Victor looked at her and said he needed help. Then he said the words that would change everything. He told the friend that he may have shot Katherine, may have shot. Like there was some question about it. Like he wasn't sure if pulling a trigger and firing a bullet into another human being had actually happened. But hey, let's keep going because it gets worse. Victor told the friend that Katherine had pulled out a knife and threatened him. That's his story. That's what he said to justify what he'd done. Self-defense, right? That's where he was going with this. But here's the thing. If you genuinely defended yourself, if you genuinely feared for your life and had no choice but to shoot someone, you call 911. You report it. You say, I was in danger. This is what happened. Please send help. Victor didn't do that. Instead, he begged the friend to come outside and help Katherine. The friend went outside, and what she saw was devastating. Katherine was in Victor's Honda CR-V. She wasn't moving. She wasn't responsive. She'd been shot, and she was dying, if not already gone. The friend immediately told Victor what any rational person would say. You need to call 911. Call for help. Get an ambulance. Get the police. Get someone who can try to save her life. Victor refused. He didn't want to call 911. He didn't want police involved. Instead, he told the friend to take Katherine to the hospital herself. In her car, the Nissan Altima. He wanted the friend to move Katherine's body from his vehicle into hers and drive her to the hospital. No authorities, no official report. Just move the body and go. So that's what they did. Victor and the friend pulled Katherine out of his CR-V and placed her in the Altima. The friend was probably in shock, probably terrified, probably just trying to process what was happening. And again, she told Victor, call the police. You need to call the police. He refused again. Then he did something that showed exactly who he was. Victor demanded his gun back. The friend had taken it from him at some point, probably when he first showed up asking for help, probably trying to keep the situation from getting worse. But now Victor wanted it back. The friend said no, she wasn't giving him the gun. Not after what he'd just done. Not after he'd just killed someone. That's when Victor pulled out a second gun. Girl, a second gun. He'd had 2 firearms on him this entire time, and now he was pointing one directly at the friend, threatening her. The same way he'd threatened Katherine just hours earlier. The friend had no choice. She gave him back the first gun. Victor took both weapons, got in his Honda CR-V, and drove away. He left his girlfriend's body with her friend. He left the scene. He ran. The friend called 911. Police and emergency services rushed to the area near 12th Street and Mountain View Road in Phoenix. Katherine was still in the Altima. Paramedics found that she'd been shot at least once. They transported her to the hospital immediately, doing everything they could to save her life. But it was too late. Katherine Cervantez was pronounced dead at the hospital, 39 years old. A loving mother, gone after 2 weeks with a man who couldn't control his anger, his violence, his need to dominate. And Victor Giron? He was in the wind. The Phoenix Police Department had a homicide on their hands. Katherine Cervantez shot dead after dating a man for only 2 weeks. And that man, Victor Giron, had fled the scene after pointing a gun at a witness. This wasn't a mystery. They knew who did it. They knew what he looked like. They had his vehicle description, a Honda CR-V. They had witness testimony. The question wasn't who. The question was where. Detectives started building their case immediately. They spoke with Katherine's friend first, the woman who'd witnessed the entire nightmare unfold. She told them everything. The overnight stay, the argument about drugs and alcohol, the threat Victor made in the backyard when he said he'd shoot Katherine, how he came back alone an hour after they left, how he said he may have shot her, how Katherine was unresponsive in his car, how he refused to call 911, not once but multiple times, how he made her move Katherine's body, and then the detail that probably made every detective in that room tense up, how Victor pulled a second gun on her when she wouldn't return his first weapon. This friend had been through it. She'd lost someone she cared about, been held at gunpoint, and been forced to participate in moving a dying woman's body. The trauma of that night was going to stay with her forever, but she gave investigators everything they needed. She was clear, she was detailed, and she made sure they understood exactly who Victor Giron was. Next, police spoke with Katherine's mother. Can you imagine getting that call? Your daughter is dead, and the man she'd been dating for 3 weeks killed her. Katherine's mum confirmed what the friend had said. The relationship was volatile. They argued all the time, constantly, and Katherine had mentioned to her mother that Victor kept a gun in his car. She knew her daughter was in a dangerous situation, but like so many families dealing with domestic violence, there's only so much you can do when someone you love is caught up with the wrong person. Investigators now had a timeline, they had motive, they had witnesses, they had evidence, but they didn't have Victor. He was gone, and the clock was ticking. Here's what law enforcement knew. Victor Giron was armed with 2 guns. He'd just committed murder, and he'd shown zero hesitation in threatening someone else with a weapon. He was dangerous, he was desperate, and he was running. Police immediately started tracking him. They pulled his phone records, started pinging his cell phone to see if they could get a location, and on December 18th, the day after Katherine was killed, they got a hit. 9:30 in the morning. Victor's cell phone pinged in Gila Bend, Arizona. Now, if you're not familiar with Arizona geography, let me paint the picture for you. Gila Bend is about an hour southwest of Phoenix. It's a small town, not much there except desert, gas stations, and Highway 8. But here's what makes Gila Bend significant. It's on the way to the border. It's on the route you'd take if you were trying to get to Mexico. And that's exactly what investigators suspected Victor was trying to do. Run south, disappear, avoid accountability. They notified Border Patrol. They notified local law enforcement in the area. They put out an alert. Honda CR-V, 21-year-old male, armed and dangerous, suspected of murder. Everyone was looking for him. A Border Patrol agent spotted Victor's SUV. It was heading south on State Route 85, moving toward Ajo, Arizona. Ajo is even further south, even closer to the border. At this point, it was clear. Victor wasn't running to a friend's house. He wasn't going to lay low somewhere in Phoenix. He was making a break for it. He was trying to get out of the country, but he didn't make it. Just north of Ajo, near the intersection of State Route 85 and Rasmussen Road, Victor Giron crashed his Honda CR-V. Now, it's not clear from the reports if he crashed because he was driving recklessly, trying to outrun police, or if something else happened. What matters is that the vehicle went off the road and Victor's escape plan fell apart right there in the desert. But even then, even after crashing, even knowing that law enforcement was closing in, Victor tried to run. He got out of the SUV and took off on foot. Like, where are you going? You're in the middle of the desert. You just crashed your car. There's nowhere to hide. But hey, desperation makes people do irrational things. Victor wasn't thinking clearly. He was in survival mode, trying to avoid what he knew was coming. Arrest, charges, life in prison. Pima County Sheriff's deputies were on the scene. They chased him down, and it didn't take long. Victor Giron was taken into custody. 21 years old, covered in dirt and sweat from running through the desert, caught less than 24 hours after killing Katherine Cervantez. When detectives tried to question him, Victor didn't say a word. He invoked his right to remain silent and immediately asked for an attorney. Now, that's his legal right, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it also told investigators everything they needed to know. He wasn't going to explain himself. He wasn't going to claim it was an accident. He wasn't going to try to justify what he did. He knew he was guilty. Victor Giron was booked into Maricopa County Jail. The charges: 1 count of second-degree murder for killing Katherine Cervantez and 1 count of aggravated assault for pointing that gun at her friend. Both serious charges, both carrying significant prison time. Detectives continued working the case. They processed the crime scene. They analyzed the evidence from both vehicles, Victor's Honda CR-V where Katherine was initially found, and the Nissan Altima where she was moved. They documented everything: the bullet casings, the blood, the trajectory of the shot. Forensic teams went over every inch of those cars, building a case that would hold up in court. And they reviewed that video, the one recorded 30 minutes before Katherine died. Watching her stand by that car, watching Victor gesture angrily at another vehicle, watching her get back inside, not knowing she had half an hour left to live. That footage became a key piece of evidence. It established their location. It showed their demeanor. It put them together right before the murder. The investigation also revealed something about Victor that made the whole situation even more concerning. Remember how he pulled out a second gun when the friend wouldn't give back the first one? That means Victor was walking around with 2 loaded firearms, not for protection, not because he had a permit or a legitimate reason. He was carrying 2 guns because he was the kind of person who wanted to be armed and dangerous at all times. That's who Katherine was involved with. That's who threatened her life. In that backyard, that's who followed through on that threat an hour later. Investigators talked to more people: friends of Katherine, family members, people who knew Victor. They built a profile of the relationship. Everyone said the same thing. It was toxic from the start. The arguing, the control, the violence. It had all the hallmarks of an abusive relationship, just condensed into 2 weeks instead of 2 years. period. What should have been a cautionary tale, what should have been a situation where Katherine could walk away before it was too late, turned into a homicide because Victor Giron couldn't handle rejection, couldn't handle conflict, couldn't handle anything that didn't go his way. And when things escalated that morning over drugs and alcohol, when Katherine maybe stood up for herself or said something he didn't like, he made good on his threat. He shot her, and then he tried to cover it up, tried to manipulate her friend into helping him, tried to avoid calling the police, tried to run to Mexico. Every single decision he made after pulling that trigger was about self-preservation, not about Katherine, not about getting her help, not about taking responsibility, just himself. The evidence was overwhelming. The witness testimony was clear. The forensics backed up everything. Victor Giron had murdered Katherine Cervantez, and there was no way around it. The investigation had done its job. Now it was time for the legal system to do its.
Chase Golightly is joining us live in studio with new details that we uncovered today. And Chase, what have you learned?
Well, Creepy Mark, the 21-year-old suspect was arrested yesterday. Court documents we obtained claimed the victim and suspect had only been dating for a few weeks and had a history of fighting. This is the last video showing 39-year-old Katherine Cervantez alive. It was taken Wednesday night near 12th Street and Mountain View Road. Phoenix police say you can see Cervantez and her 21-year-old boyfriend Victor Giron get out of the car when he's almost hit by another car. Giron then makes gestures at the vehicle in the middle of the street as it drives away. Cervantez stays by the car before getting back inside. The rest of the video doesn't show Giron. But court documents say 30 minutes after this was taken, Cervantez was killed. Court documents obtained by 12 News claim the reason both of them were here was to see Cervantez's close friend who lives nearby. She reportedly told police that the couple had only been dating for about 2 weeks, and the two had argued often since they started dating. The friend told police she witnessed one of those fights a few hours before this video was taken, where she reportedly heard Giron say he was going to shoot Cervantez. The friend told them they both need to leave, which they did. About an hour later, she says Giron came back alone, entered her home without permission, and said he needed help, stating he may have shot Cervantez. The friend went outside and saw Cervantez in a different car than the one in the video, saying she wasn't responsive and they needed to call 911. Giron didn't want to and instead moved Cervantez into the friend's car. When the friend said she was going to call police, Giron reportedly pointed a gun at her before leaving. Police were called, saying Cervantez was shot at least one time and transported her to the hospital, where she was pronounced dead. Giron was arrested the next day. According to those same documents, he was found driving south about 2 hours from the crime scene on his way to Ajo, Arizona. When he was pulled over, police say he got out of his car and ran before he was taken down and arrested.
Victor Giron appeared before a judge the day after his arrest. The prosecution laid out the charges: second-degree murder and aggravated assault. They detailed how he'd killed Katherine, threatened her friend at gunpoint, and fled toward the Mexican border. The evidence was there. The witnesses were ready. Victor's attorney entered a not guilty plea, but the court wasn't taking any chances. The judge set bond at $1 million, cash only. Victor wasn't going anywhere. He'd sit in Maricopa County Jail while his case moved through the system, waiting for a trial that would determine the rest of his life. 2 weeks. That's all it took for Katherine Cervantez to go from meeting someone to being killed by them. 14 days of red flags that moved too fast for anyone to stop. Her friend saw the gun. She heard the threats. She witnessed the violence. Katherine's own mother knew they argued constantly, but domestic violence doesn't always give you time to intervene. Sometimes it explodes before anyone can pull the person you love out of harm's way. Katherine was 39 years old, a loving mother, a woman her friend described as someone who would be deeply missed. And she is missed. Her children grew up without her. Her mother lost a daughter. Her friends lost someone they cared about. All because a 21-year-old man couldn't control his anger, his jealousy, his need to dominate. Think about the pattern here. The constant arguing from day one. The physical assault Katherine told her friend about. The gun he kept close. The escalation over drugs and alcohol. The verbal threat to shoot her just hours before he actually did it. Every single warning sign was there, compressed into 2 weeks. That's how fast abuse can turn deadly. That's how quickly someone can go from, "I love you," to, "I'll kill you." And when Victor pulled that trigger, when he shot Katherine and watched her collapse, he didn't call for help. He didn't try to save her. He thought about himself. How to avoid consequences. How to manipulate her friend into moving the body. How to get his guns back. How to run. Even in that moment, even knowing what he'd done, it was all about him. The friend who witnessed everything. The one who had a gun pointed at her face. The one who had to move Katherine's dying body. She's gonna carry that trauma forever. She did the right thing. She called 911. She told the police everything. She made sure Victor couldn't claim it was an accident or self-defense without being challenged. But the cost of that was her own peace of mind, her own sense of safety. She lost a friend and gained a nightmare. Let's talk about that video for a second. The one that shows Katherine 30 minutes before she died. She's standing by that Nissan Altima, calm, waiting. Victor is in the street, angry, gesturing at another car that almost hit him. You can see the difference in their energy. Katherine looks tired, like she's used to this, like she's already checked out emotionally, but doesn't know how to leave. And Victor looks agitated, ready to pop off at any moment. That's what the relationship was. Katherine trying to keep the peace. Victor ready to explode. 30 minutes later, she was gone. There's a bigger conversation we need to have about age gaps in relationships, especially when one person is barely an adult and the other is approaching 40. Not because age gaps are inherently wrong, but because maturity levels matter. Life experience matters. When a 21-year-old is dating someone 18 years older and bringing that much chaos, violence, and instability to the table, there's a power dynamic at play that isn't healthy. Victor wasn't Katherine's equal. He was a volatile kid with guns and unresolved anger issues, and Katherine paid the price for getting involved with him. But here's the thing we can't forget. This isn't about what Katherine did wrong. She didn't choose to be murdered. She didn't ask for violence. She was trying to live her life, maybe looking for companionship, maybe hoping this young man would treat her right. The blame sits squarely on Victor Giron's shoulders. He made the choice to be violent. He made the choice to carry guns. He made the choice to threaten her. And he made the choice to pull that trigger. Domestic violence doesn't always come with a warning label. Sometimes it hides behind charm, behind apologies, behind promises to change. Sometimes it escalates so fast that by the time you realize you're in danger, it's too late to get out safely. Katherine's story is a reminder that abuse can happen to anyone, at any age, in any type of relationship, and it can turn fatal in the blink of an eye. If you're reading this and you see yourself in Katherine's story, if you're with someone who argues with you constantly, who's put their hands on you, who threatens you, who carries weapons and makes you feel unsafe, please reach out for help. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Talk to a friend. Make a safety plan. Get out before it's too late. Because the difference between surviving and becoming a statistic can come down to one bad argument, one heated moment, one decision made in anger. Katherine Cervantez deserved better. She deserved a partner who respected her, She deserved to watch her children grow up. She deserved to grow old, to laugh with friends, to live a full life. Instead, she got 2 weeks with a man who saw her as something to control, something to hurt, something to discard when she didn't comply. Her death wasn't just a tragedy. It was a failure. A failure of a system that doesn't always catch abuse early enough. A failure of a culture that normalizes violence in relationships. A failure of the people around Victor Giron who knew he was troubled but didn't intervene before he had access to guns and a vulnerable woman. Victor sits in a jail cell now, facing the consequences of what he did. But consequences don't bring Katherine back. They don't undo the trauma her friend experienced. They don't heal her mother's grief or her children's loss. Justice in a courtroom is necessary, but it's not the same as justice in the world. Katherine is still gone. So what do we take from this? What's the lesson in a story this dark, this senseless, this avoidable? We pay attention. We believe victims when they tell us about abuse. We don't dismiss arguing as just how they are. We don't ignore threats, even if they seem like empty words in the heat of the moment. We take guns in the hands of violent people seriously. We create space for people to leave dangerous relationships without judgment. We check on our friends. We ask the hard questions. And we never ever assume that someone else will step in, because sometimes there isn't time. Katherine Cervantez's life mattered. Her death matters. And the 2 weeks she spent with Victor Giron should serve as a warning to all of us about how quickly love can turn into violence, how fast safety can become danger, and how important it is to recognize the signs before it's too late. Rest in peace, Katherine. You deserve so much more than what you got. Your story won't be forgotten. And maybe, just maybe, it'll save someone else from the same fate. That's the case of Katherine Cervantez. Murdered after 2 weeks of dating. Gone too soon. Remembered always. This is 12 a.m. Crime.